Tony Khan finally made it official on Wednesday. CM Punk is returning to AEW. As part of AEW Collision, starting with the debut episode on June 17th from the United Center in Chicago. He won't have very far to travel. He'll get to sleep in his own bed that night. There was no mention of what he would be doing on the show. The belief, per The Observer, is that Punk and Ace Steel will be heavily involved in the creative of the show going forward, at least for Punk stuff. And the main angles and storylines on the show will revolve around him. So make no mistake, Collision is the CM Punk show. And it sounds like he's going to have a whole lot of creative freedom on that show. It's going to be his playground. The bigger story here wasn't so much that Punk is coming back. I mean, we already knew that. But the very mixed reaction that he got in San Diego. A lot of cheers, but also a lot of noticeable boos. And that's from people who are actually in the building saying that also, not just the way it came across on television. Now, they were in California, which is the Young Bucks' backyard, so that also played a role, I'm sure. Punk is going to be greeted like a king in Chicago. The real test is going to be week 2, and 3, and 4, and so on. And those next few weeks of Collision after Chicago, they're in Canada, which is Kenny Omega's territory. They don't return to the States until July 22nd in Newark. You know, Punk is one of those guys who, as great of a babyface as he can be, he's an even better heel. If he gets booed in most places outside of Chicago, they would be wise to play into it and book Punk like a modern-day 1997 Bret Hart, where he's a babyface in Chicago and he plays heel everywhere else, right? Not unlike MJF in Long Island whenever they go to Long Island for Dynamite. The only issue with that is there are more heels for him to work with than babyfaces. You know, Joe, great heel. Andrade, heel. Malachi Black, who was also on the Collision poster with the rest of the House of Black, heel. His boys, FTR, they're babyfaces. You know, maybe he ends up like their John Cena, where he gets mixed reactions wherever he goes. It's too early to tell, but Punk in that 1997 Bret Hart role I think could be fun to watch. And he's a big Bret mark. I'm sure he would love to do it at some point. You're not going to get a war of words or a program with Punk and the Elite. They've all signed NDAs, so they can't talk about any of that stuff that went down. The Bucks clearly do not want to have anything to do with this man. My sense of Omega, based on comments he's made in interviews, is that he would be willing to do business and work with Punk. But again, they're keeping all of these guys separate. Tony Khan is not going to be able to keep them separate on the pay-per-views. They're going to be backstage. They're going to have to share a locker room together for those shows. I still think it's a time bomb waiting to explode doing it this way, without having any sort of resolution between all the parties involved. But that's the risk that Tony Khan is taking by bringing back CM Punk right now. You know, he wants Collision to be a success because it is something the head of Warner Brothers Discovery specifically, personally asked for. More wrestling, more AEW television on Saturday nights. It's not an easy night to do TV. He knows he needs a marquee name like Punk to have a fighting chance. Even with CM Punk, there is no guarantee this show is going to be able to pull great numbers after those first few weeks when the novelty wears off. In the 24 hours after the announcement of Punk's return, they moved an extra 500 or so tickets for the Chicago show, which is all right. It's not great. You know, they're set up right now for around 10,000 in that building. They had closer to 15,000 tickets sold for the first dance 2 years ago. Out of those 10,000 that are open, they have over 7,700, and maybe by now it's 8,000. I haven't checked in the last 24 hours, but last I checked, they had about 7,700 tickets out for that United Center show. So they should be able to get 10K in there once they announce some matches and what Punk is going to be doing on the show. Their allotment of tickets, I'm sure, will sell out. We'll see how many more they sell for those Canadian dates. Again, those first 3 or 4 collisions after Chicago that Punk is going to be on are all up north. They're all up in Canada. So we'll see how that sells. The other question when it comes to Punk is his health. He broke his foot. He shattered it on that dumb stage dive right after he won the AEW World title for the first time. And it ruined an entire summer's worth of storylines that Tony Khan had planned for him heading into Forbidden Door last year and beyond Forbidden Door. He came back. And then less than 2 weeks later, he wins back the AEW World title and tears his triceps in the same match. So whether Brawl Out happened or not, we were going to get a vacant championship. Now, it could be dumb luck, or it could be something else. He's a lot older than people remember him being. It's a risk, building an entire show around someone coming off 2 major injuries and 2 major surgeries. Can he stay healthy? It's one of the reasons that there's a lot of reasons why I would keep him away from that AEW World title. But it's one of the reasons why Tony Khan should not consider putting the belt back on Punk. If he wrestles MJF again, it should be to lose and put him over. Not to win the AEW World title. That should be out of the question right now. I remember Dax Harwood claimed that Punk told him once he didn't even want to be the AEW World Champion the first time, but Tony Khan felt like it would help the company for them to have the belt on Punk because Punk had a name. So Punk said, okay, if you think it'll be good for the company, I'll be your champion. The first time, they had to create an interim title. The second time, they had to hold a tournament. So I hope Punk keeps that same attitude this time around. I agree with him. He doesn't need the AEW World title. That should not even be part of the conversation. They put the belt on him twice. They got burned twice. There is no need to try again. He does not need the belt. But Fightful is reporting that heavy pitches for Chris Jericho to work with Punk were made. If you remember, they had their meeting in Florida to try to hash things out. That was the trip where Punk ended up on the same flight coming back to Chicago as some of the WWE talent. And he ended up backstage at Raw. Pitches were made. Fightful, though, has not heard anything new on that front. Samoa Joe against CM Punk was planned at one point, is still in the works. But word now is that Punk has taken a liking to the work of Switchblade Jay White. And that Jay White could be an early opponent or program for Punk, along with Bullet Club Gold. That would explain why FTR came to Ricky Starks' rescue against Bullet Club Gold. Jay White and Ricky Starks, they're wrestling this Wednesday. FTR banned from ringside. Juice Robinson banned from ringside. I think we're getting a third member of Bullet Club Gold revealed. At least one, maybe 2. I think we're getting that on Wednesday. I think they're going to help Jay White win that match. And I could see a CM FTR, maybe with Ricky Starks, against Bullet Club Gold feud on Collision. They have to add more members. You cannot have Bullet Club or a Bullet Club offshoot with only 2 people. 2 people does not a faction make. That's a tag team, not a faction. So they have to add at least one new member to Bullet Club Gold. I think we get that this week. And the first images and gameplay have dropped of Owen Hart in AEW Fight Forever, which is out on June 29th. There's been a lot of gameplay videos that have dropped, but the Owen Hart stuff, I just saw that yesterday for the first time. The more gameplay I see for this, by the way, the more hyped I get for it. It looks like it's a lot of fun. I think Owen Hart, CM Punk, and Cody Rhodes are all in the game. I know Cody is. Punk, I'm not sure of. I think Punk still is in the game. I know he's off the cover. What a mess, by the way. They had him front and center on the cover of the game because they thought it would help sell video games. Then Brawl Out happened, and he got replaced. And now he's back before the game even comes out. But the Owen stuff I saw looked really good. They had all kinds of cutscenes with him in their story mode. And what's cool about that, I guess, from what I read, is that, you have like Tony Khan is on the phone having a conversation with a wrestler who's got Tony on speakerphone. And I guess the dialogue will change depending on who the person is, how big of a star they are. So I'm very curious to kind of get hands-on with their story mode. I think they call it Road to the Elite. So again, I'm watching this, and it was weird watching Owen holding an iPhone. It's amazing. He's been gone for so long. Smartphones were not even a thing when he was still alive. But already, I'm seeing the brigade of morons out in full force. Oh, how dare AEW make money off the good name of Owen Hart? How disgusting. How low can you go? And the only reason Martha is doing it is for the money. Yes, of course. Of course. It's all about the money with Martha Hart. That's why she resisted the chance to work with WWE for over 20 years. The $1 billion company, when she could have made more money than you'll ever make in a lifetime. Yes, I'm sure it's all about the money. She's working with AEW and not WWE because AEW did not kill her husband. And because she wants nothing to do with the McMahon family, which is completely understandable. And in case you missed it last year, they announced at that time, that the Owen Hart Cup and all the Owen merchandise, t-shirts, they have Jazzware figures, his inclusion in the video game, it's all part of a collaboration with the Owen Hart Foundation. The Owen Hart Foundation helps with scholarships, housing, other programs. Anything to shit on AEW, though. Oh, he never worked for AEW. How dare they? It's a mockery of his legacy. I mean, are you fucking serious? Let's just call it what it is. It's all about shitting on AEW. The only people who have this much of an issue, a year later still, with Owen Hart being included in the game and having any sort of affiliation with this company is because they look for excuses to shit on this company. Even the mutants can take something nice and try to turn it into something dark. So to all those people, it's almost summertime. The weather is getting warmer. People are hitting the beach. They're swimming in their pool. Splish splash. Your opinion is trash. Shut the fuck up.